Welcome to PodMagic, real conversations about solving real IT challenges. My name is Bruce Kornfeld. I'm the Chief Product Officer at StoreMagic, and we're always exploring how simple, reliable technology can benefit you and the people that you serve, no matter what you do. Whether you're running branch offices, retail stores, or just supporting customers on the front lines. My goal is to bring interesting guests, deliver value, and have some fun along the way. So let's get started. So for today's episode, it's gonna be a little bit of a CXO roundtable in that I am the Chief Product Officer, and I have two gentlemen here that also have C in their titles. The first one is Jeff Guenthner, is the field CTO from Solutions 2, as well as John Wondolowski, I think I said it right, who is the Chief Technology Officer of Solutions 2 as well. So thanks for joining, gentlemen. I think what we'll do real quick is maybe just have you introduce yourselves. What do you do? What's your area of focus? And a little bit about your background. So let's start with John.
Great. Thanks, Bruce. As you mentioned, Chief Technology Officer for Solutions 2. And we have people around the United States. We have a few verticals that we'll probably get into where we have some depth of capability. We're a managed service provider, but we're a solutions company, value-added reseller, system integrator. And I've been with them for about 7 years. I spent most of my career in enterprise IT as an enterprise IT leader. And then I went to a value-added reseller about 10, 13 years ago, 10, 13 years ago, and tried to lead their transformation into this, at that time, the new cloud era, but there's always like the next transformation and the next digital disruption. And then Solutions 2 bought that company, and I've been with them ever since. Kind of like Jeff, we're all client-facing, and our job is to make sure that our client-facing job, our client-facing time is productive and helps our brand. So specifically, and I think it'll come up today, one of the things I do is I build out our ecosystems. Could be client advisory boards in our verticals, which are casino gaming and public safety, or in the broader general IT sense, we lead a CIO roundtable each month, have for 13 years, and we lead a Chief Information Security Officer roundtable, have for each month, have for 13 years. Each of those groups has over 100 members, no cost, no sales. We just facilitate the roundtables, bring in subject matter expertise. It's about networking. It's about learning from each other, and it's about us learning from them as well.
Well, I'm excited about our little roundtable here. A bunch of tech guys talking tech. So that's what it's all about. All right, thanks very much. So Jeff, why don't you do a quick intro as well?
Yeah, so similar to John, I was working for the company that acquired Solutions 2. That's how we became besties, if you will. So I've been, if you count that time to now with Solutions 2, it's been 20 years that I've been working in a field role of some kind. And so in my role now,
you look like you barely just graduated college, Jeff.
I know, right? I'm so young. Yeah, thank you. You're too kind. Yeah, I do a lot of things. I do a lot of client engagement, like John's talking about. I specifically work like primarily in our data center practice. As John mentioned, we have two other verticals, gaming and public safety. And then I dabble in those when I'm needed. John does a lot more work with them than I do. So I do spend a lot of time talking to what we call our data center practice, which effectively is anything that's not casino gaming, commercial, tribal, or public safety in that space. And so there's a wide swath of clients that I talk to in healthcare and consumer packaged goods manufacturing, retail. Like it's just this nice long tail effect for us. And I work with John. John and I look at our ecosystems, our portfolios, and decide go-to-market strategy for managed services and things that we sell and building outcomes that give us competitive advantage in the marketplace. But by and large, on a day-to-day basis, I'm usually interacting with the client in some form or fashion.
And Bruce, probably most importantly, for the last, 10 plus years, Jeff and I have been co-managing a fantasy football team.
We have.
And our team is the winningest franchise in the history of that
league. In the league. That is correct.
You guys must know what you're doing. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, listen, even though you're both client facing, I like the fact that you don't need to comment on this. You're likely not the people asking for purchase orders. You're the technologists that are helping the process. So that's what it's all about. All right.
Well, I mean,
So
I'm glad our CEO is not here because our CEO would beg to do. Yeah, our CEO would say everybody sells, and so it's just a
it's
matter of
true.
we deal in
True.
outcomes. Yeah,
There you go.
For
yeah,
There you
better
go.
or worse, Bruce, I've never seen a purchase order to solutions too.
There
I'm
you
not there
go.
when that happens.
I have.
There
I'm
you go.
guilty.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay, so let's dive in. So the first topic I'd like to throw out for conversation between the two of you cover all sorts of verticals. It doesn't matter to me who goes first, but the topic is, and John mentioned the word cloud already, but what do you see from your end users, from your clients, in terms of cloud versus edge? Where are they thinking about putting infrastructure these days? Is it I'm all cloud, I'm all edge? Is there a lot of debate in between? Let's open up with a good conversation about cloud versus edge.
Jeff, you go, and I'll go second.
Got it. Cool. So I think all of our clients have a foot in both camps, right? So I think there was an era or where everybody was trying to get to cloud because it was like the thing, as you alluded to, John, earlier, like there's always some kind of thing going on. I remember cloud, big data, digital transformation. Now we're in AI. So there's always going to be a something going on. I think that now a lot of our clients are looking at their cloud workloads and really trying to decide what's best for them, right? Because now it's about operating margin. And so we see workloads that should remain in the cloud because they provide nice business agility. And we see workloads that are probably better off coming back into a data center of some kind, whether that's their own or a colo facility, because they can just control the operating costs much more elegantly, and the workload is known and it's not really elastic. From an edge perspective, that really depends. And so, like our clients that are doing, let's say, consumer goods manufacturing, or more specifically retail, because we do share some retail clients with StoreMagic, I think those folks are starting to do things at the edge, especially around analytics, inventory supply management. Some have pharmacy apps because they have a pharmacy in their stores that they need to have access to. And depending on the point of sale vendor, some point of sale vendors say they're cloud, but they still require a gateway in the store, and some are full cloud. And so you kind of like this like gamut, depending on the retailer and what they want to do. So I think we see both, John, is what I would say, and it just
We
depends.
should, Jeff. I'd say that edge, which is in my mind not real well defined yet, is defined a bit differently depending upon industry. Would you agree
Yeah,
with that?
I do, absolutely. Yeah,
So I'm very fortunate, Bruce. I get to talk to. We have hundreds of clients, and then we've got these roundtables each month with another 100 plus in each of the roundtables. So I get to hear what's top of mind, and the top of mind. And every month we do in meeting pollings, and so we get an actual quantitative view of what's top of mind. Top of mind right now is AI adoption across industry. Our roundtables tend to skew to mid-market, small enterprise, depending on your definition of that, but they're across all different industries. And the AI adoption is the wild card for edge and cloud. And I think it's going to, I shouldn't say dramatically, but it's going to somewhat alter that balance between cloud and edge, because if we go with AI adoption, and we'll get into this more, it's really about data gravity, and the speed of real-time decisions.
Yeah, I definitely want. There's definitely going to be a conversation about AI coming. I mean, no podcast would be worth its value if it didn't. But we'll get there for sure. But let me just ask before we head into the AI world, what about? Can either of you think of an example maybe where you're working with a client and they made a decision that said we need to run on-prem at our small locations. John, I agree with you. The definition of edge may not be perfectly consistent, but they have multiple small locations in addition to a data center or a cloud somewhere else. And they've made a decision they can't run their applications in the cloud. They have to run it locally, or the other way around. I don't care which example, if you can come up with one, but someone that had to make a decision about this consciously.
I mean, I definitely can, because I was in on the conversations where this multi-billion-dollar client in basically in food manufacturing, they they got the food and then they packaged it. They said, what we're going to do, we're moving from our Oracle ERP on-premise, and we're going to go all cloud. We're going all cloud. And we planned that out for them. We helped them plan that out through a few workshops and got to the point where it was pretty clear. Some of it was their locations and the network capability at those locations. Some of it was other things related to floor manufacturing processing and that type of thing. And they reached the decision on their own with us that, oh God, no, we need at a minimum edge, if not completely on-premise. To a certain extent, we'll go as cloud. And to go a little bit further, when the pandemic hit, we were talking to clients over and over again, different ones about, we need to go all in on cloud. We need to go all in on cloud. And for those that weren't born in the cloud, I can count out of 40 clients that we talked to, maybe more, on one hand, how many were able to go 98% cloud. Each of them had a use case where they said, well, that's not going to work. We need non-premise capability. Jeff, you kind of remember who I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. That specific client, Bruce, has an application that they've built that's custom for them and their manufacturing processes that they run at each location, and they have a lot of locations. So they had to at least keep that on-premise for obvious reasons. And then I think just what we see, like the transition to cloud, a lot of it for us has been like big ERP systems moving, like getting broken up and moving to SaaS platforms like a Workday or a NetSuite or SAP in the cloud, like et cetera, right? And so you used to see a lot of infrastructure around those applications, and the business has just simply decided, no, we're going to punt that to somebody else, and it's going to be, cloud. So we still see a lot of infrastructure as service with the applications that clients maintain for themselves. And then those analytics applications, like to your point, they might collect data from the edge and bring them in to a main processing source, but they're still collecting data at the edge in some way.
Yeah, what's interesting here for me listening to these stories is that StoreMagic, as we know, is a software provider in the infrastructure space. We typically aren't at that point in the conversation. We get pulled in by people like you and end users when they've made their decision that says we're building on-prem edge infrastructure, and then we become a choice. But hearing the upfront conversation about how it goes sometimes right or wrong is quite interesting for us because we're usually not at the table for that level of conversation. All right, so let's move to another topic. So let's talk about hyperconverged. So the whole concept of, instead of massive server farms and storage out there, just converge everything, one server, two servers. Tell me, what are you seeing in the vertical markets? Is this something that has passed its prime? Do you still see end users focused on it? Where do you see hyperconverged infrastructure in your customer base?
I think everybody's pissed off at Broadcom and wants to leave VMware, frankly, right? So there's a lot of business to be had in that space. I mean, I'm being silly, obviously, on purpose, but
it's not silly. It's
yeah.
true.
So I mean, I think you fit that space very well in that you offer an elegantly packaged solution that I can run on at least two servers for consistency, right? I can have this very lightweight witness. I can either run it in my environment or I can run it in the cloud as a service from you, which is very inexpensive as well. And it just works, right? It was designed for that. Our clients love it. Like it's fantastic. I kind of equate what you're doing to what IBM did with like a mainframe or an IBM I, right? The AS400. The thing just runs and it's reliable. It's very cost effective. And we love the fact that you guys are making your own hypervisor now, which kind of is how I fold back in the Broadcom conversation, because it's going to be a lot easier for clients to make that decision. Because right now they're struggling with, do I stay on vSAN? Do I go to like something from Microsoft with Hyper-V? Do I do something like with Proxmox? Do I take and just go a completely separate direction and do like OpenShift virtualization because I know I want to go to containers eventually? Like these are like application level, like business function level decisions that get made that ultimately drive the architecture the client wants. I think that's my perspective, at least. John, what do you think?
I completely agree with you, Jeff. We are definitely seeing hyperconverged have kind of, they didn't need a rebirth, but the companies, we've got clients in our casino gaming industry that you wouldn't think were casinos. They're like hundreds of gas stations or convenience stores that happen to be located in a footprint where they can have slot machines, and there is, for a wide variety of reasons, there is momentum for, I'll just call it hyperconverged infrastructure on the edge in use cases for casino gaming. And of course, Jeff mentioned the Broadcom thing, and that has really created a big interest from the IT leaders on, well, what's my solution? And they'll talk to us about what's my solution. And the most important thing right now, because the runway that they have is that's going to take a lot of change capital. And is it really that much less expensive? So the ROI needs to play out. But then in the end, some large percentage of our clients, this is an informed guess of 50 to 60%, are saying, don't have the ability to change right now. I'm holding my nose and signing up one more round, which means that they're not done with the migration. They're not done with changing their edge devices. They're just not ready for it right now. And so that whole VMware let's say VMware at the edge, but VMware in some edge use cases, it doesn't have a lot of legs, especially in the SMB, in my view, in the SMB and the small enterprise, and even really in the enterprise. It's just because doesn't seem to be the target, the target demographic that Broadcom's going after. And so there's going to be more fallout. The one thing I mentioned earlier with that client that was the food processor is, and you mentioned it, Bruce, they do come to us and say, now what do I do? And one of the real drivers strategically that they need to solve for is the data. Okay, well, we're going to replicate data across places. What's the role of the cloud in that? Because one of the things that we found from our roundtables and our clients is the sprawl of data and the data silos has gotten to a point where it is hamstringing AI adoption or really any other data or technology transformation. I gave you a lot of stuff, Bruce. Sorry.
No, it's good. It's a good topic. I want to talk about it a little bit, the whole VMware thing, which is love them or hate them. Hock Tan and Broadcom, they're brilliant. They're brilliant. I mean, what they're doing, they're from a business perspective, their company's thriving. Stock price keeps going up. Their revenues and profits are record high. Like, they have some smart people there. And what they've done is they've created a whole ecosystem, a whole opportunity for software providers like ourselves to go fill the gap of all of the small customers that they're leaving behind, as well as some of the big ones that can't afford VCF at their edge sites. So it's great though, because now you guys have customers coming to you with like, what do we do? How do we solve this? So it's been great for the industry. It's frustrating for customers. I get it. But it's just created some real interesting things going on. One other question I had for you is, do you hear customers talking about getting support from third parties for VMware? Is that real?
Absolutely.
I've heard a little bit about it. Have you had customers go that way? Does it work out well?
It does, and it works best with clients that obviously have perpetual license because they've signed those agreements, and those are hard to litigate, right? I know Broadcom has sent cease and desist letters and still continues to, but those are just, I'm not a lawyer. That's not my job, but our clients are looking at third-party support where they have perpetual licenses to get that protection, to John's point, because they're looking at the change capital it's going to take and the transition costs, and so maybe they'll sign up. They'll get to a state on version 8, let's say, of vSphere, get all of the updates, get everything they need, and then transition to a third party, set a 1 to 3 year clock, and then start working out what the strategy is going to be for that transition, knowing that they've got a self-imposed deadline in 3 years. They could certainly re-up the support if they want to, but it's a way for them to force that change.
Yeah. All right. What about, all right, I think it's time to move into the AI topic. Clearly, every provider, every end user has to be at least thinking about what is our AI strategy? What do we do? John, I think you had already gone to that topic, but let's just talk about that. What are you seeing really happening now with AI, and how is it impacting customers' decisions about infrastructure? And if you can, particularly at the edge for smaller sites, is it really starting to happen? And what kind of decision making is it driving?
Jeff, I'm going to set you up on this so that you can hit it out of the park. So as I've mentioned the roundtables that we do. If you think about it, 3 years ago, I think 3 years exactly, there was no Chat GPT. I think it was, if my math is right, my memory is right, it's been less than 3 years. So 18 months ago, I polled all of our roundtable members. And now remember, mid-market, small enterprise, and asked them about their AI status. And I used 3 terms. Are you active, meaning that you're experimenting? Are you operational, meaning you have some stuff in production? Do you have substantial AI across the organization? And are you doing nothing? So just last week, active, 70%, so experimenting. Operational, 20% in production. Substantial AI across the enterprise, 5%. So if you did the math with me, that's 95% that are at least experimenting. I asked that question 18 months ago, exact same question. 18 months ago, it was 25% experimenting, 5% operational, 0% substantial across the enterprise. So there's impact, but is everybody making the right decision? Everybody's not making the right decision. Are people confident that they're making the right decision? And then, Jeff, data management, number one concern for IT leaders today, but everybody defines data management differently. So, Jeff, edge, data management, and what do you see?
Yeah, it's funny. So there's a commercial that's on TV that I've seen quite a lot. It's from another vendor, Bruce, that is an enterprise vendor. But there's this interaction between these two individuals that talk about AI. You've probably seen it, where the one individual is clearly like the customer is like, well, yeah, we have data. Data is all over the place, and the AI is using the data, and the other person's just like, yeah, but you're not getting any results. Like, you don't understand. And so from our perspective, like, one of the things we tell our clients, even with Copilot usage, is we approach it from a security and a data perspective, right? You've got to understand what data is out there, what exists, where it exists, and who has access to it. Because when you start giving access to Copilot, it's going to tell you anything you want. It's this whole design. And so from an edge perspective, like, a lot of the stuff we see, like, even I guess before Chat GPT, because if you really think about it, same thing that Google search does, same thing that Chat GPT does. Behind the scenes, it's a massive machine learning algorithm inside of a neural network. So it's a little complex, but we were doing like predictions for anomaly detection well before ChatGPT came out. And we see a lot of our clients are still doing that. So they're running some kind of an algorithm to collect data for some reason and then send it to a central source to be further analyzed for analytics, servicing of parts, you name it. And so we do see a lot of that happening at the edge. That's a very common occurrence for our clients. And I would say that's predominantly the largest AI use case in our world. So like inventory fill, anomaly detection on equipment, would be the two largest. And then there's, to John's point, a lot of other clients are experimenting with what can I create with my data that's AI-led or AI-driven that I can then charge for, right, as a service, right? How can I create more value for myself as a corporation, but also for my clients? And so that's typically what we see.
Are you seeing any of that? So like data is the big thing here about organizing it, protecting it, securing it. Do you see any of this driving different infrastructure requirements, in particular, more storage per site, more CPU needed, memory? What about GPUs? Are you getting requirements for that? Let's talk about infrastructure a little bit being driven by AI, if anything.
Yeah, so we have a client that we'll just say they're in the industrial space, just to, sorry, can't say more than that. But to your point, so they have an edge server that has a decent amount of CPU. We're using an AMD CPU. It's got a beefy memory requirement. The storage is multi-terabyte. And yeah, it does have a GPU on it. And they use it for some of the use cases I've described to you and others for their clients and their deployments. So yeah, we're absolutely seeing that work go on at the edge. And that if you can write software code or you have a vendor that you can work with that is in the AI space that has that capability, having a GPU on an edge server is absolutely something we see. And it depends on what kind of, what the dictate will workload the requirements of the GPU. And that's how
Right.
we do processing.
But for any,
Because I've
for any,
heard.
I'm sorry, Bruce,
No,
for
go
any
ahead.
infrastructure decision, today there are three guiding principles: cyber risk, resilience, and simplification. And with some vendors, you can make the choice with that vendor for a wide variety of reasons based on the use case. Oh, this is better for this, or this will solve that problem. But in some cases, you may be inventing technical debt 2 years, 3 years down the road. And Jeff, if you don't mind, Bruce, I'm going to ask him the question. Jeff, so how do you play into, well, I need an edge device, but I got to understand the cyber risk and the data protection. It's got to be resilient, and it's got to help me with my resilience across the enterprise. And I need simplification. I don't need more devices in other places.
Yeah, so that's ultimately what drew me to StoreMagic, believe it or not. So we had a client that is in the retail space, and I happened to stumble across the use case with Home Depot, and it's public, so I mean we can talk about it. And so I started learning more about what the Home Depot enterprise IT operations team was doing with StoreMagic, and the fact that they've set up their clusters. But this, John, kind of gets to your question too. So it's hardware with StoreMagic, so that will take care of my data requirement. They're using Ansible to deploy, right? So that takes care of my simplification requirement from an operations perspective because you've got 2,200 locations. And then they use an enterprise backup vendor, one of the new enterprise backup vendors, to protect that data at the edge so it's immutable. And I was like, that's a perfect architecture. I love that. I'm just going to go blueprint the hell out of that because this client and other clients are asking for that in various shapes and sizes. And so that's what ultimately led me to come to your doorstep and have those conversations and get engaged.
Yeah, while we're talking about that, Jeff, you had mentioned to me a few weeks ago that you had a mini case study of a retail customer in your space. Without mentioning their name, feel free. Do you want to walk through their requirements and how you were able to solve it with our tech?
Sure. Yeah. So they've got, John's talked about technical debt, and we see a lot of technical debt in various shapes and sizes. This particular client was just in a technical debt situation with age of assets and needing to change over the assets. And so we were able to do that with some new infrastructure. And that they had a VMware license. So we're using SVSAN in not the full HCI platform that you guys have now. So, and that was actually before you announced the HCI platform. So we use SVSAN with their VMware license. They have a perpetual license, which made things really, really easy. So we just popped the SVSAN on there. And the cool thing about the project is they have an amazing project manager, and they were really concerned about scheduling the downtime of the existing infrastructure because of its age, and then inserting the new infrastructure that we had created in partnership with you and doing that in off hours because they just weren't sure how it was going to go. So they did one off hours. It went beautifully. And then they just made the decision, well, we're just going to do this during store business hours. So they sent their field technicians out with the new equipment and just literally did the changeover during business hours, and nobody noticed a thing. It's phenomenal. It's a great, and so they're in love with your platform. It just works. And then the other thing for them was simplicity, as John alluded to earlier. When you take a look at, or when we took a look at the various architectures, because we did consider going to a vSAN, you just reach this point with vSAN where, and they have a couple hundred locations. And so you have to create clusters in your vCenter to manage those vSAN deployments. And you reach a point where when you get to like 64, you have to have another management, right? And so you've got these managers of managers, and you got somebody managing that, and that gets really, really complex. You have to remember which cluster you got to go to, and you have to start thinking about, well, how am I going to organize my stores? That's not just really simple. It starts to get like to be a pain in the butt. And with StoreMagic, the thing that the client loved and that we love is from a witness perspective, I can go do a 2 node and I can have 1,000 locations to one witness. It's just insane scalability. And it comes at, and the premium to do that is not expensive at all. So clients are just, I was shocked. So are our clients.
Nice. Cool. All right. Thanks for that story. So listen, it's we're running a little bit, not too bad, but a little bit over, but where we wanted to be. But it's a great conversation. How about ending? I'll ask each of you to think about. You can take a pass if you want, but just think about predictions for the future. Whether you want to think about 1 year, 3 year, 10 years. I'll probably be dead in 10 years, but or maybe not doing this job in 10 years. But just think about the future, technology wise. Where do you think the industry is going? What do you think customers are worried about for the future? And I guess maybe I'll start with Jeff.
Ooh, I was going to actually say start with John because John's got a lot of amazing
Okay.
data from our roundtables, and it would be a good arbiter to like at least set a baseline.
That's fine.
Oh, you really are saying start with me.
Yeah.
Do it. Why not?
Well, the pace, and Jeff and I say this all the time, the pace of technology, the pace of change in technology has always been way too fast, but it's been accelerating and much way too fast over the last few years. That's going to continue. And so predicting ChatGPT wasn't even out 3 years ago. So going out 3 years from now, I can't even imagine what that would be. However, for IT leaders, the most important thing is getting there without making too many mistakes that lock you in. And as a vendor, we've been talking about off and on for the last 30 minutes. There's vendors that have proven to IT leaders that risk of vendor lock-in is a problem, and risk of obsolescence is a problem. And so I asked this very, very similar question to a bunch of CIOs just 2 weeks ago. And what I said is, when you sign a 3-year contract, what's your expectation? And they said, man, I hate signing 3-year contracts because you have no idea what's going to be there 3 years from now. So I'm not going to make any predictions on the technology, but if you look back and you think of the capabilities that AI has provided on a monthly acceleration scale, Anthropic now, just this week, I think it was this week or last week, says that their guy Claude can code independently for 30 hours. And my fear is that, wow, for an enterprise IT leader, the complexity that kind of progress is going to create in technical debt, in shadow IT, we'll be here 3 years from now, but there's going to be a whole host of problems that are going to be difficult to mitigate going in.
All right. So somehow, through the acts of something out there, we lost Jeff for a second. He's back, but we did have a little bit of a snag, but life goes on. But listen, I want to thank both of you guys for coming. Jeff and John, it's been great conversations talking tech with 2 CIOs, 2 CXOs, 2 CTOs, whatever you call yourselves. We're all in the tech world. Again, my name is Bruce Kornfeld, Chief Product Officer at StoreMagic, and you've been here for PodMagic, where we're talking about real IT challenges and how to solve them. So if you enjoyed the show, click the like button, forward it to your friends, Aunt Ethel, Grandma, your uncles, whoever wants to listen. Happy to have you, and we'll see you again next time.
Thanks
for
Bruce.
joining.
Yeah, Bruce, Jeff does that every time he doesn't like the question.
Yeah, I just bounce. Like, I am not answering that. Yeah, just bail.